Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Record. Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Today, we are joined by an author. Would you please introduce yourself and let the audience know how they can connect with you?
My name is Janeen Swart, and I have written a book called A Visit Home. My website is janeenswart.wordpress.com. And of course, also you can find my book at Amazon, and also I have a Facebook page that you could check on also.
Is that on your website, your Facebook link?
Yes, that's all on my website, right?
Because in the description when I upload this, I will have the link to your website and also the buy link to your book directly on Amazon.
Great. On my website, I also have some discussion questions for the book in case anyone would want to read it for their book club.
Oh, that's great. I never thought about that, but no, that's really good. I like that. So, yes, I read A Visit Home. But why don't you, before we start diving into your book, how long have you been writing?
Well, I taught school for 25 years, and after that,
Well,
I
bless you
really
for
have
doing that. I think seriously,
yeah,
I know.
third graders. Yes,
Wow.
I loved it, but after that, I always wanted to try my hand at writing. And I did take some courses after I retired. And so I retired when I was 55 and I'm now 75. So I guess I've been writing for about 20 years now, but I have found over the course of time that it's very difficult to get published.
Yeah.
That is a real challenge.
Yeah. I published my first book 20 years ago. And I completely understand. And that's when the technology was totally different than what it is today.
Right.
There was no Google or Amazon.
No way to probably get your book out there that much.
Not really. I actually printed out flyers, actual flyers, and went to places that actually had bulletin boards, and that's where I posted my flyers. That was my marketing.
Yeah, that was totally different.
Yeah, some people are probably like, what's a bulletin board?
Yeah, believe me, I did a lot of bulletin boards when I was teaching, so I know what they are.
Oh, yeah. And so what was how many books have you written? I know that I have A Visit Home, and then you have another one upcoming, and it's on my calendar. But did you have other books published before Visit Home?
I did have one published way back, and I started out writing children's books,
Mhm.
and I had one published by these are very small publishers, but it was called A Dog and His Boy, and it was certainly based on my sons and their relationships with their dog. And I did get that published. Um, then later on, I had another young adult book published called Hidden Truth. And that was published by Soulmate Publishing, but unfortunately, that has disbanded now, and they gave the rights back to the authors. So
Right,
I still have that listed on Amazon, but I had to redo it, in order to publish it again. To
right.
publish, I I self-published it then. And then I guess the next one that I got published was this one, A Visit Home, and that's by Winged Publications, which is another very small publisher, but I was excited to actually get it published.
You know, there are a lot of small publishing companies, or there's smaller press, and they're just as good as anyone else. It really, it's the quality of the story and the quality of how it is sold that I see. Um, I mean, I read a couple hundred books a year, but I've seen some really good self-published books and some not so right. Just
Right, I
because
can
they
imagine.
of the quality, or they use templates, and the problem with using like a cover template is that they all look the same. Um, and so if somebody didn't know the title of your book and just saw this purple and white cover, I see that more than anything. And
Mm-hmm.
um, they might think it's from, if they don't understand the concept of using a template, then all these books have the same book cover, just different titles.
Okay, okay. I didn't know that.
And some people,
That,
I mean, templates are great, but then you should really make it your own, even if you just change some colors. For me, I recommend that if they don't know, have somebody do the book cover, just make it one color and put your title on it. At least,
yeah,
it won't look like everybody else's book.
the book I just sent to you called Loved and Lost. I was pretty excited that I actually made that cover myself, and the publisher went ahead and used it. So I was excited about that. I liked it. So I asked her if she would use it.
That it is a great cover. I was looking at it, and I like that you do your own covers. I do mine, and I just find that over the years I've just gotten more in practice and good at it. And then I've also designed covers for other authors as well. But it's
Okay. You seem
that's the
like you
thing they
do a
look at.
lot. You seem
I
like you're very confident with computer work.
I used to be in the tech field. And then when I became disabled, I just kind of devoted myself to helping authors and reading their work, also writing my own stuff. But um, I like doing what I do for authors. And it was an author who insisted I keep my podcast when I was going to
Oh,
cancel this year. And she's like, no, you can't do that to me. So I just reframed it, and now everybody wants to be on it. And that's very exciting for me. And I like
right.
being able to uh, have you tell your story. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what visit home is about, and then that can lead into you reading an excerpt.
Okay. Well, I got the idea for a visit home from an actual event or an ongoing events that happened in our community where this elderly couple adopted some children, and later on it was exposed that they were very abused in that home. And from there, I tell everybody I just started out with that idea. Don't expect that it's the same, exactly the same, because my husband joked about it. He goes, "We're not going to get sued, are we, since you're writing about this family?" And I said, "Well, I hope not." But then I guess, the book has a disclaimer saying that it's totally fiction. And I did later in the book, I diverged from that story, and it's totally out of my crazy imagination. And but the two children that were adopted, they did each eventually get away from that family. And the story is about God's love and how they both found forgiveness and moved on eventually. So they the boy ran away from home. The girl had another experience where she had to get away from the home, and it kind of all turned out well in the end. Of course,
But
that's the way most people want their books to end. I think most young young mother readers, young women.
yeah, they
And
want the happily ever after.
I think that's who it's probably aimed at is young readers that maybe want to have a book club discussion
And I think that's
or
very important
or
because, uh, and it's a book that I found that a lot of people can relate to, even if they've never been in that situation. And I think it is so important for children of all ages to know how to read and actually sit down and take a book and read because I think that's
right.
so important.
I totally agree with that, being a teacher. And yeah, I saw it many times where kids just didn't weren't interested in reading. And I myself, honestly, I didn't read much when I was young, but I'm just an avid reader now. I list all my books on Goodreads and keep track of them. And I think I had, I don't know, almost 75 books or something like that last year that I read.
No,
So
that's exceptional. I mean, I have a lot
yeah,
of books because people say, "Will you read my book?" But then I also have books I read because they're of interest to me,
right,
kind of
right.
books that I like. And I used to, uh, my father and I used to swap books and swap records, um, and so that was something that was always important. He has dementia. He's in a facility now, and he can't even read anymore.
Oh,
But I think of the times that those were like, books were always a part of my life. I mean, when I was a kid, if I dared say, "Oh man, I'm bored," my mom or my dad would say, "Go read a book."
yeah,
So I did.
that was a common thing. Yes,
Yeah, there's always
yes.
something to do. Go read a book. They didn't say go
Right,
watch TV. They said go read a book. So,
right. Yeah, that nowadays it's the phones, of course. The kids are on the phones all the time.
oh yeah, and you try to
Yeah.
talk to them and their face is buried in that screen.
Yes,
My,
yes.
my
Our
son's
son was just
grown now.
complaining. Yeah,
Yeah, but still, that
but
phone is attached. And
so
you were talking about
yeah,
that, that family, kind of, that's how your story, you got the idea. But when you think about it, that the dynamic of that family, you weren't writing exactly about them, and they just were people that inspired you for better or for worse, to
right.
want to write a story that was similar to it. So, you know, it's not like you wrote explicitly about them, and and it was
And I
not
think that's how a lot of authors get their ideas. I mean, uh, there's something that triggers a story, and then you just go with it, and it becomes a developed book eventually.
exactly because I think that they say that life is stranger than fiction. It's more interesting than some fiction, and it inspires fiction. Um,
Right. Yeah.
so there's always that. Uh, I am. I've always been a person who would just like to sit back and observe how other people act and react.
Yeah,
Um,
isn't that fun?
oh, it
Love to go
is.
sit at the mall or wherever and watch people.
Exactly. I used to do people watching all the time. I'd go to the mall or just when I needed a break from my kids, or sit in the
Right.
park or, wherever. And at one point, I was driving down the road this years ago when I could drive. I saw this couple. It was an older man and older woman, and they were walking down the sidewalk, but they were holding hands. And like the kind where you interlock fingers, you know, and that
Mm-hmm.
stuck out with to me because it was like it's you don't see that very often, especially in younger couples. Before my mom died, when my parents would go for walks, they held hands, when they walked, even though my mom's stride was lesser than my dad's because she was only 5 foot, or actually she was 4'10". So, and he was
Oh,
7. But he,
my one son teases me because I'm only 5'1", and he's mom 2 more inches and you could be considered a dwarf, I guess, or something. I don't know what the term is. That's probably
yeah.
not the correct term, but anyway, he teases me about that. I
Oh,
said, I hope I
I
don't
get,
shrink anymore.
I get, yeah, I'm 5'3", but my kids are 6 feet or taller, so I don't know where they
Both
got that from, but it wasn't from me. My one of my sons is actually 6'5", so I, I I could be going to the store. I used to go to the store and they would walk like around me and you couldn't see me because you just saw these tall people. They're like
Yeah,
service and they couldn't show me.
and I have a lot of the same experiences because our boys are both 6'1" and my husband is 6'4".
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
I'm very tiny compared to the rest of them. If they're taking a picture and I'm standing with them, I usually try to stand on my tiptoes because I feel way too short otherwise.
Yeah,
So
I know. I felt really, really short. I was like the middle person. My son and daughter-in-law, they just got married in October and they were taking family pictures. So here I am in the center, and then everybody else is like really tall, and I'm just this little short person.
yep, yep, yes.
But there are advantages to being short. I
Oh yeah.
bumped my head at the top of the door.
Yeah, that I never thought of that. That's true.
My son
Uh,
had to duck. So, uh, but anyway, I back to I'd love to hear an excerpt from A Visit Home. I think our listeners would really be intrigued by this story.
okay, I didn't know. This is toward the end of the book.
Mhm.
I just love the relationship that Tom, the boy, and his adoptive father, the one that he lived with, that taught him to become a loving person.
Right.
I love their relationship, and this is from the time when Jacob was very old, and well, I'll just go ahead and read it, and then maybe I
Mhm.
can explain it a little bit more.
Okay.
I wake I wake from my thoughts when Jacob smashes into the layer of ice on one of the waterers with an extra amount of force. Looking up, I see my benefactor clutch his chest, a stricken look covering his face. Time freezes as I look on, unable to move. Jacob collapses, first to his knees and then his body slumps over onto the cold barn floor. I wake from my shock and kneel beside the big man, lifting Jacob's head to rest on my knees. Don't leave us, Jacob. You've got to hang on. I'm going to run to the house to get Emily. We'll call the ambulance and get you to the hospital. With a strength I didn't expect, Jacob grabs my jacket to pull me closer to his mouth. Tom, keeping secrets will eat at your soul. Jesus forgives all. Tears stream down my face as Jacob fades. What do you mean? The burned boots, do they match that footprint? Jacob gasps out the words. I hug him and rock the old man in my arms. Jacob's breathing catches, becomes steady, stops again for a moment. Guess we'll never know now, I say. I straighten. I've got to go get help. Hang on. I let Jacob down as gently as possible and race to the house. I run in and grab the phone, and when Emily sees my face, she knows. She hurries out to the bar, not stopping to take a coat. The operator connects me to the hospital in town. Waiting for a reply makes my insides feel like a tornado churning and gaining momentum the longer it takes. The nurse who answers takes my information and explains the ambulance is already on its way. I pray it will get here in time, but the snow-covered roads will make traveling slow. When I hang up, I snatch Emily's winter coat and hustle back to the barn. Charlie had followed Emily and stands at the door, barking, knowing something is not right. Squeezing between the opening of the door to keep Charlie at bay, I store the scene before me in the recesses of my mind, etching it there, never wanting to forget. Emily is lying on the barn floor facing Jacob, holding him as close as possible, her face against his and repeating the words, I love you, don't leave me. I love you, don't leave me. I walk closer and cover the two lovers with Emily's coat. We're suspended in time until I hear the ambulance siren a good 30 minutes after my call. And that's just I think a very touching scene when he knows he's going to probably lose Jacob in his life, and Jacob and and Tom have this trust that they built,
Yeah,
but yet Jacob seems to wonder if there is something more going on with the boots that were burned in the burning barrel. I guess I can't say too much, but that's all connected to an investigation that Tom was accused of murder.
right. Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I must say that, obviously I read that, but you just reading it got me a little choked up.
oh,
So, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I when I reviewed it, this is why I gave it 5+ stars. If they had it, on my website, it's 5+ stars. Amazon only goes up to 5, but I made sure inside in the actual text of the review that it says I would give it more than 5 because this was one of
yes.
those
Thank you
stories.
very much. Thank you. I appreciated that. I posted that on different places, and yeah, many people commented about it. So
That's
I
good.
hope,
I hope my reviews help people. And I do know that a lot of times when I always share the review on my Facebook page, and I do get notes or notifications from people that tell me that, oh, this sounds like a good book. I'm definitely going to buy it, or I'm going to read it, or I did read it, and I think the same thing you do. Many people
yeah,
they take my recommendation seriously, and if it sounds good to them, because I like
good.
it, they'll read it. So this is a real amazing um, book. I mean,
And
this is
I did try to get this book out there so many times, and I submitted it many times to different publishers. And like I said earlier, it's so difficult to get a book published, as far as I've found out. And
oh, it
I
is.
yeah, I did get some feedback, which was wonderful from a couple of the editors. And one of the editors told me that she just couldn't connect with the characters. So I did, and I thanked her because I did go back through the book and rework quite a bit of the dialogue and the inner thoughts, and so that maybe the characters came out as individuals a little more.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that not everyone accepts critiques or criticism. Um, but I'm one that will accept it if it's reasonable.
right. Yeah,
Feedback
and
and
she
things
was,
like
in
that.
fact, that editor was about to accept the book, and then just at I think part of the reason because it is, I mark it as a Christian book, but
Mhm.
yet there are some things in the book that turn off some of the publishing companies because they want it to be completely clean and no
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Well, it's
scenes.
life. I mean, and that's ridiculous
Right.
too, because even um and I've read a lot of Christian books, different, a variety of different genres within um, that, and they're not always, they're realistic. I mean,
That's the way it should be
yeah,
because, like you said, that's
there's
life.
yeah, there's no perfect person if anymore.
Right.
If there was, if we were perfect, life would be boring. Um, but also, that's humanity where our imperfections kind of make us who we are.
Right. Yes.
So I
Yeah.
really,
And it makes books more interesting, I think.
oh yeah, I've read
Add a little bit of that once in a while. Yeah.
exactly. And
Right.
it's like even somebody who would write, say, a dark or a horror or some kind of thriller, they the best authors add in some levity into it so it's not all heavy and dark and dreading or whatever. It's got to be some people, uh
Right.
it's how I deal with my disabilities. I make jokes, they're stupid, but i I love it when I make my kids laugh and then they deny it. But
Yeah. They
but
usually say, "Oh, mom."
yes, and roll their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
I kind of like to compare my book to um and I know he's a very famous author, but William Kent Kruger's book, Ordinary Grace. That one is set in about the same time period, like the early 60s, and it
mhm,
shares life about a Midwest town, just like A Visit Home does. And there's a lot of sad events in that book, but there's a lot of humor and just feel good stories too, I think.
yeah,
And both books kind of um,
yeah. I mean,
show the human spirit and the resilience
yeah,
that the people can come back from a bad experience. They can be saved by grace.
that's true. They, um, and it, faith in whatever a person has faith in, that gets you through to whatever. There's not one or only one type of faith or system. I A while ago I read, and it had been a long time since I had read it before. It's a nonfiction book, Child Called It, and then there's some sequels to it about the man and how he grew up, and uh,
I
the
read that. I read
yeah,
that a long time ago, but
I read it a long time ago, and then I read it like last year because it's actually on the banned book list. A lot of
oh,
the books that I choose to read, I'll go to that list and say, "Oh, this sounds good. I'm going to read it." So that's kind of like my go-to list to books that I want to read for myself. So I bought the
I
his.
didn't know there was a banned book list.
Oh yes, I know. The American Library Association website, which is ala.org. They do an updated list every year.
Oh,
So
hmm.
yeah, and I work off of when I'm looking for a new read that's something that someone hasn't shared um, with me. But and sometimes I'll find it and I'm like,
Is that banned books for like uh high school students, or why would they
it's
ban
it's libraries, schools, towns might ban something from bookstores.
them?
I
Okay.
mean, it's kind of, but yeah, it used to be a lot of the classics, uh, but now it's they a lot of the books are geared to like LGBTQ the communities, or even
Okay.
ones that are uh, about um, race.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
there's a lot, but it's actually their website has so much information on it. I subscribe to it, even though I'm not a librarian, but they always have a lot of information on it. Uh,
Okay.
but
I'll have to check it
I'm
out.
I'm so glad that I had you on our show today. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I enjoy talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. If you wish,
Now,
I'm
well,
sorry.
you'll send me information about when it will be on and so forth,
Yes,
right?
yes, I will get after I edit this show and get it ready for uploading. You'll get the information by the end of the day.
Okay,
So
great.
if you wish for you or your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you. And again, thank you, Janeen.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well.